Hello, everybody. I am Andrew Stevens, author of the Cycle of Awakening, book one, When Blood Burns, is out now, my epic fantasy series. And welcome to the third episode of this indie author interview series where we're talking with a handful of indie authors who've been publishing books for a while now and or doing this full time. And just trying to go back to the very beginning just to see what things were like, how they all got started, and just kind of their journey into indie publishing. And so today we have Shami Stovall. Hey, Shami, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
So real quick, before we get started with the questions, just tell us a little bit about you, what you write.
My name is Shami Stovall, Shami like the car cloth. I went to school for history and then got a law degree. I write a lot of fantasy, science fiction, lit RPG. I got one of my books here, urban fantasy, Time Marked Warlock. I don't have my screen inverted, so it's backwards, but you can see it. It's beautiful. I've written lots of books, I believe 40 at this point. So, and I write in a variety of genres. So I've just got a lot out there.
Sweet. Well, we will talk about all of that back before all those 40 were written, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So to get started, I just like to talk about like what it was that set you down the author path. Was there any kind of key drivers? Was it just something you kind of slowly transitioned into? Yeah.
I used to be a dungeon master for like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff, and I would write my own stories and characters, and a lot of the players would tell me that they really enjoyed my stuff. They really enjoyed these stories. My husband really encouraged me to be an author after I wrote a couple chapters of a book and I let him see them. He was nervous because he's a really honest guy. You know, he's not the type of husband who tells you look good if you're wearing something that makes you look fat. He just tells you look fat, like that kind of thing. So he was nervous to read them because he said if they suck, he was going to have to tell me they suck. But he read them and he was like, oh, wow, I think you could probably do this as a career because these were pretty good. So I just got a lot of encouragement from friends and family to pursue this. So that's when I did it.
Wow, that's great. That's nice to have that support, especially early on. I think it makes a difference, huh?
A big difference, yeah.
Nice. So when we initially were talking about doing the interview, we're going to focus on the Arcanist series as your first, even though I think you said technically that wasn't the first thing you ever wrote or maybe published. But focusing on Arcanist, because I think that's when you kind of, were serious about it. What made you choose Arcanist? Was that a world that kind of you'd had already created? Was there some kind of inspiration there that brought about that series?
My husband and I had developed a tabletop game together, so like our own version of D&D. And as a part of it, we had a really robust, like familiar system, like bonding with creatures and having them do stuff with you. I'm really a big fan of Pokemon and Digimon and Monster Rancher and any sort of monster taming, monster raising, anything. So I had a lot of fun developing a lot of that. And I used a lot of that for my Arcanist series. It's basic, I always pitch it as Harry Potter meets Pokemon because it's very much like that. There's a lot of Pokemon elements in there, Digimon, things like that. So yeah, it was inspired from a lot of different areas, but mostly our tabletop game.
Okay, cool. Seems to be an inspiration for a lot of things for you then, huh?
Yeah.
What about the first characters that you had developed for this world? Were those also something from your tabletop game that you developed, or just?
No. These were characters I specifically made for the books. A good story needs a really good cast, and so I just thought of a really cool cast and kind of put them together.
did you pull from like any real life people you know or anything like that, or was it
No.
just totally?
A lot of the times I pick characters based off of like archetypes and what goes well with an archetype. Like,
Okay.
there's a reason there's a grumpy character and a sunshine character together, because
Mm-hmm.
it's, maximizes the two personalities. A lot of people that I know in real life are, I mean, not to be like, oh, they're all the same, but they're all, if we had to put them into an archetype, they're all very much the same archetype. I hang out with a lot of nerds, you know what I'm saying? And an
Mm-hmm.
entire group of nerds that were nerding out on every nerdy thing is not like the best ensemble cast, because we need a little bit of give and take, or some friction, some interest. So yeah, no, they're not really based off people I know. It's more like what the story demands, as opposed to it was cool to put my friend in there. I mean, occasionally I do stuff like for background characters. A lot of my background characters are named after my Patreon people,
Ah, okay.
or something like that, or like a friend of mine will be put in there. But that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I've never been like big into D&D or anything myself, but I'm like very familiar with that world and what it is, and like uh I think that makes it like an interesting way to develop characters. Actually kind of a smart way too, because you really like you could really create all of the aspects of your characters and then like understand how they actually fit into the story. And is that kind of how you do it then?
Not through D&D. No, sorry. When people play D&D, they go off on crazy tangents. They do really crazy things. There's a lot of
Yeah.
like lots of joking, lots of inside jokes, lots of bizarro stuff. The reason that the party is held together in D&D is just because, and you can't really do that for a book. You can't just have a group of people hanging out just because. Um, there has to be reasons why these characters are interacting. There's got to be reasons why they have like the same goal. And D&D
Yeah.
glosses over that because they're all just player characters, right? The reason they have the
Right.
same goal is because the DM said you all had the same goal. Um, and in a book, you need a little bit more verisimilitude, which is the fancy word for it needs to feel like it was organic and lifelike. Like I have to be convinced that this would kind of happen. So no, I don't use D&D or D&D relationships or character interactions to help me with my books. Um, I guess I do more like read history or something like that to help me with my books if I really need like help or inspiration.
Okay. Yeah, I was more talking about like the characters themselves, like creating your characters. Like I know, like for myself, which I haven't done a ton of it yet, but kind of like creating like a profile, like almost like you would maybe with D&D, maybe not to that level because some people can get really specific. But I don't know if that like when you come up with characters, does that kind of help,
Oh
or have you
yeah,
come up with
yeah,
your
like a
own
little
ways to?
a serious Bible, right? And putting putting them together and having like a little character sheet, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even in
Okay.
like if you write yours is lit RPG, right?
No, mine is not.
Oh no. Oh, okay. Well, in lit RPG, a lot of the times the character sheet is just it's even in the book, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes
yeah.
sense for sure there. All right. So you said you've written 40. What kind of stage of life were you in when you first published Arcanist?
I had already graduated law school at that point, so out of college indefinitely, and um, basically trying to really solidify what my career was going to be. I guess for the rest of my life, was I going to be an attorney or was I going to be an author type of thing?
Yeah. And how did that kind of work out? Was it kind of just a slow transition of doing it, or did you just decide like, I'd just rather do author?
I guess it was. I just decided I'd rather do author. Being an attorney kind of sucks, and my husband has been an attorney for a very long time, and he'll tell you the same thing. It totally sucks. You don't usually go to an attorney if you're having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and he did dependency. His was like where children are taken away from parents because the parents are abusing their children, basically.
Wow.
So really depressing stuff. And I just basically stopped doing any attorney work whatsoever. And John supported me while I kind of learned how to write and get this publishing thing done. So yeah, it was kind of I just kind of did it.
Okay.
But for a while there, for a while I was basically just learning how to writing a whole bunch, not doing anything. It was through his support that I was able to do that. If he wasn't there, I would have had to like work at the same time type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It definitely makes a difference when you have that. Again, like we talked about already, that support to help you
Yeah.
do it. Because a lot of indie authors, it's they're coming from full-time jobs and then they're having to figure out that transition.
Yeah.
Or like Z.S. Diamati, who just was like, screw it, I'm going all in and we're gonna make it work.
Yes.
So yeah, it's always interesting to hear how people do that,
Mm-hmm.
But that's really cool. All right, so let's talk about maybe that learning process. Like, what was that like for you? If you can remember kind of what feelings were going through your head, and like, were there any difficulties with trying to figure out just how to write consistently, write a book in its entirety, those sorts of things?
I guess finishing my first book really taught me a lot about how to finish a book, multiple acts, structuring a book, structuring all the acts. I went to a lot of writing conferences and listened to a lot of people talk about the art of writing, and then read a lot of articles about the structure of writing, frankly, how to do real good dialogue, how to do a 3-act structure versus 6-act structure, how to do a really compelling ending, how to do subplots, all this other kind of stuff. Writing the book was definitely the biggest teacher, though. Like I said, I do advocate for people to finish writing a book and then go through and then reread, and then change the book based off of what you had written basically later. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I guess that's how I did it. Step by step, just pushing through, doing a lot of writing. I guess I wrote like 8 hours every day while I
Oh
was,
wow.
yeah. But um, I, I feel like writing is one of those self-motivated jobs. Like you have to have a lot of self-motivation and a bunch of self-discipline. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
somebody over your shoulder. I mean, you already know, you've already written a book. There's nobody there telling you to write your book. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to clock
Yeah.
in and clock out and be like, So you gotta, I guess you gotta have the mental discipline to sit down, do your writing, do your editing, read some stuff about how to write, do reading, because even reading books is sometimes helping you with your own writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when you read too, being very aware of what you're reading. I know a lot of authors say you got to read new genre, you got to read new genre. What they mean is that you got to read and you got to really look at how this author constructed their first chapter, right? How did this author do their first chapter? How did they transition from one scene to the next? How did they ramp up tension? How did they resolve multiple subplots? When you're thinking about that while reading a book, then I feel like you get a lot more out of it in terms of like learning how to write your own story as opposed to just consuming passively.
Yeah. I definitely because I had read a lot as a kid, but I stopped for a while on that, so I knew I needed to get back into it when I started writing. And John Gwynne was the first. The Bloodsworn was the first one I picked up, and like I mean, just like the way he like structures sentences and like not having to follow all the grammar rules that we've been taught, to a T, and like it's okay, and sometimes it actually makes things better, like the reading experience. And yeah, definitely.
Mm.
It's a lot of interesting things to learn from in different styles of author,
Yeah.
for sure. All right. Talked about that. You did mention editing. So
Mm-hmm.
as far as that, I've said this before with the past interviews, but like, a lot of the stuff that you listen to when you do like writing advice and conferences and things, like they'll say like, your first draft, just get it out, because that's like the main hurdle, is just writing the whole thing from start to finish. And then, start doing the editing. And like, that's where that's really going to become the story that it needs to be, And so I think it's like almost a separate skill that we have to learn. So for you, how was like learning editing and, those initial books? Did you kind of figure out a rhythm, a way to do that optimally?
I guess I already said it. I do think you should write the book and then go back and then reread your own book and edit at that point. Occasionally I've gotten bogged down I've decided to pivot completely on a plot point. And so changing the story at that point is very difficult. And that's why I advocate for writing an outline. I really like outlining quite a bit, because it helps me, or it prevents me from having that problem where like I've written a story and suddenly like at the midpoint, I'm like, wait a minute, what if that guy survived? And now the entire book has changed. You know what I'm saying? Like it's no longer the same story. In which case the entire latter half of the novel, it needs to be rewritten wholesale. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to throw away like 50,000 words that they wrote because they changed the thing. So writing an outline helps me avoid that. And that's, I guess, part of the editing process. I write an outline, write the book, then go back through, reread it, make sure all of my facts and things are aligning and things make sense. And yeah, so I do think that outlining helps a lot with the editing process.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's the age-old debate of pantsing versus outlining, and it's like whatever works for you. I mean, again,
yeah.
All the writing advice is pretty much like whatever works for you.
And whatever helps you get your stuff down, that's the best one.
Yeah, I like outlining too. It's just knowing your targets and where you need to keep aiming for, basically.
Yeah.
And so for you, again, I already mentioned that you self-published, but was there any, like in the beginning, were you thinking about going trad? What was that process kind of like for you of deciding to go self-publishing and then figuring all that out?
So my first book, technically, that I published was traditionally published. But I didn't make that much money. When you get a royalty check for $50, you're like, wow, I don't think I could live on this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, I got an advance, but the advance was also not something you can live off of. Like you could make more money working in a McDonald's for a year than, the type of advance that most people get for like their first book or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, it's just not doable. Like I do want to make a living off of writing. So when I started self-publishing, it was because my husband encouraged me to do so. He was like, dude, stop doing this traditional publishing thing. It's bullshit, like that kind of thing. And he was like, just do it yourself. Especially because I had like arguments with the editors. So these traditional publishing houses, you go through an editing process. I had an argument with my editor. Like he wanted to change major plot points. I didn't want to change those things. It was frustrating, frankly. And then when we publish it, it's not like we make tons of money. So, if they had made me tons of money, I guess I would have forgiven them and been like, yeah, my editor really helped me out because I was about to make a terrible decision. No, what ended up happening is that it was just frustrating. He made me change some things. It comes out, it makes no money. So why did I even do all that? Why did I frustrate myself? Why did we do all this? It's not like I got like any money for it. So I hated the entire process, frankly.
Yeah.
So then I self-published. I made way more money self-publishing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand the appeal of why everybody does this. And since then, traditional publishing houses have contacted me and been like, oh, let's work together. So I still have like this year, I'll have my like really big traditionally published thing comes out in August. So I feel like if you really want to get that prestige, like if you just want prestige for being published with a publishing house, just go indie anyway, because if you do well enough, they'll pay attention You know what I'm saying? And they'll pay a little bit more
Yeah.
to you and they'll snap you up. And it's becoming more and more acceptable for big publishing houses to just snap up indie books that are doing well. Like that's what happened with Dungeon Crawler Carl and Tao Wong's First Step series and stuff like that. So I don't know. There's just a piece of me that's like, yeah, you should just get out there and do it. If you want to be an author, just get out there any way you can. Just find your readers and your people.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely something to consider now that, you know, self-publishing is way more viable than it used to be. Probably a little bit more mysterious when you started, but I don't know exactly how long ago you started, but I know, I mean, even like 10 years ago, it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
And let's see here. So after you published your first book in the Arcanist series, what was like the initial reception like? Obviously, you said with the trad publisher, I'm assuming that's the book you were talking about. With the trad publisher, it didn't go well at first.
Yeah.
So maybe once so I'm guessing what you got rights back and then you self-published it yourself later?
No. It's
No,
still
it
with the
just
publisher.
stayed.
Yeah, I didn't even
Okay.
bother. With Nightmare Arcanist, I just wrote it. Nightmare Arcanist is seriously just a love letter to everything that I love, frankly. Like there's a lot of Pokemon references, Digimon references, and just fun character interactions and fun things and plot twists and, you know, like just all the things I like. And I put it out there and it, you know, and it made some money and it was okay. And that's cool. And then I put out the sequel, and even more people read the sequel than they read the first one, like in terms of like reception and pre-orders. And I was like, great. And then I read the third one, and even more people pre-ordered that and, you know, read that, and they were like really hyped. And so I just kept writing it, and I just kept having fun. It was one of those things where if I'm having fun, I feel like it translates to the page really well. And I guess that's why the traditional editing thing was awful, because I wasn't having fun doing his edits because his edits were insane. Like he was like, "Hey man, you should kill off this character." That was one of his honest to God suggestions. This was the thing we argued about the longest. He was like, "You should kill this one character at this point." And I'm like, "I'm not going to do that. That's the main character's best friend. It's a crucial dynamic to the story." It's like, "No, she should kill her best friend." And I'm like, "Are you a psychopath? Like, why would that ever happen?" He had reasons. I don't actually want to delve into it, but that it bummed me out. You know what I'm saying? Like it really takes any sort of fun out of the writing process to be arguing with a dude who wants something very different than your vision, frankly. Not that I want to sound like a wine swirling artist, but so yeah, the indie thing, when I'm just writing what I love and I'm not taking into consideration what some rando thought was a good idea, I'm having a great time.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a big difference. I think it does. Like when you're like really passionate about what you're writing about, then like that's, you know, because at the end of the day, if you don't love the story you wrote, probably not a lot of other people are going to love it either. You know, I mean, maybe, but you're the one that matters. So yeah. So the first book was trad, and then the rest of the books you self-published. Is that how it worked?
I guess basically. Well, I mean, first book. I guess if you just want to know a timeline, I had like 3 books that were traditionally published,
Okay.
And then I went indie because those were not making me any money. And then basically those were all. I published a ton of indie books, and then I only started like hybrid publishing with a couple of other people. So I have like a series with Podium, which is the Half-Life Empire, and I have a series with Aethon, which is the Words of Power. And right now, the book that is coming out in August is 1/5 Dragon. So, you know, I have worked with publishers now, and that's cool. But yeah, the first couple were traditional, and it just didn't work out.
Okay. So as far as like your first reviews, like the very first book or books you published, when you were reading review, did you read reviews? Like how did you kind of handle reviews and that whole deal?
I guess when I first started publishing, I looked at all the reviews all the time. Like I would refresh the page, be looking at reviews constantly, being like, whoa, and obsessing about them. If I got a low review, I'd be pretty depressed for like a whole day, that kind of thing. At this point, I have a little bit too many reviews to ever keep track of. Not that I want to be like bragging or something like that, but once you start hitting 5,000 reviews, it's a little difficult to be like, whoa, that one guy said something mean about it. They get drowned out, frankly. But before I hit that level, I just decided not to look at negative reviews basically at all. And my mental health has drastically improved because of it.
That's fair.
Frankly, yeah, most of the time negative reviews are very subjective. Like somebody will just come on and they'll be like, I hate who the main character got together with. I wanted the main character to hook up with this other person. And because he hooked up with this person, I'm now angry. 1 star. Or somebody will write and be like, I hate that there was a beagle in this book. I only like golden retrievers and I hate beagles. And because there was a beagle, 1 star. Well, you laugh. But I have seen reviews that might as well be that. I've also seen 1 star reviews that just get things wrong, frankly. One of my series is based in World War I. And I have a history degree, and I read a lot of like firsthand accounts of World War I and what was going on in World War I. And one of the things that interested me, or I thought that was funny, really, is that officers would come to the front lines wearing like shiny boots and like fancy hats and riding a horse or something like that, because World War I was definitely a merger of old traditions and new warfare. And they weren't accustomed to things like enemy snipers. Like it was still customary for you to look like an officer. And so they would come out into the battlefield being shiny and beautiful and officer-like, and then the enemy snipers would snipe and kill them. And it happened so frequently that the soldiers were writing about it. The soldiers like would write home and be like, my dearest love, today the 7th officer got his head blown out because he refused to not wear his pompous hat. And I was like, oh, okay, that's funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny that an officer would just constantly wear his officer gear, even though, his pride or ego or something. So I wrote that in my book. I wrote that in there. I got a 1 star review. Author doesn't know anything about history or warfare whatsoever. No officer would wear some shiny boots and a poofy hat and get his head blown out by snipers. That's completely unrealistic. And, stuff like that. So the majority of negative reviews, I feel like fall into the category of super subjective and or getting it wrong. And I am not about to read every single one of those and just depress myself for days on end because somebody hated the fact I had a beagle in the story, or they hated the fact that the main character didn't hook up with the girl they wanted, or that they themselves don't know anything about history. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't. I can't do that, so I just don't.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I don't blame you.
What about you? How do you deal with the 1 star reviews or bad reviews?
I don't have any yet. I'm waiting because I'm sure it'll happen eventually.
That's when you know. That's when you know you hit the author leagues when you get those 1 star reviews for nothing.
Yeah. I know. Like, I did have one that was low, and she was super critical of a bunch of different stuff. And I actually turned her into one of my beta readers because I'm like, hey, I need those people that are going to tell me the things, like the hard things, because like the good reviews are nice and, it makes you feel good. But, generally, and I didn't really have good beta readers before. Like, it was just some friends that I found. So I'm like, I need people who are going to like really tell me what's wrong or what could change. And of course, it'll all still be up to me to be like, do I agree with that or not? So you have to keep that like subjective, mind frame. But like, at least I need people that are going to tell me that and not just be like, oh yeah, everything's great. And they just answer your questions with like a, yes, I agree or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So in the early days, you talked before about like motivation, like, having that discipline to write, consistently and keep going, no one looking over your shoulder sort of thing. Did you have any like strategies or ways that you kind of figured out how to motivate yourself, or was it kind of just powering through?
I do like the numbers go burr, numbers go up method. I like just keeping track of my word count and seeing how much I've written. One of the ways that I would get a lot of writing done is doing writing sprints. So I would be like, okay, for the next 15 minutes, all I'm going to do is write. So I would do that. And at the end of the 15 minutes, my alarm would go off. I would stop, and then I would see how many words I had written, like 500 or something. I mean, that's pretty damn, like that's a ton, but let's pretend it's 500 for easy math. And so I'd be like, oh, okay. Then I'd take like a 15-minute break or do something, and then I'd come back, and then for 15 minutes, my aim would be to write more than I had written the time previous. So I would be like, oh, okay, I'm going to write, so I'd write super fast, and I'd get 600 words, and I'd be like, okay, I improved 20% from this writing session to this writing session. And those kinds of numbers really are encouraging, at least to me. I really like seeing things like that. So I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm doing real good. And this is I just need to get the words out because I can edit it later. So it's if I just write fast and fast and fast and then get it all done and then go back and edit, then it'll be okay. So that's how I got a lot of my stuff done. It's just word counts, mostly keeping track of how many words I've written, writing sprints, trying to beat myself, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? Like try to beat my previous high record. How many words can I write in these 15 minutes? Just that kind of stuff.
Nice. It's like a little game kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Again, it's one of those things, like whatever works for people. Like I like to listen to music, like non-talking music. I can't do that, but
I agree.
Like
yeah.
Just background music, something that kind of like giving me the vibes of whatever I'm writing. It helps kind of keep me in that mental state that I need to be in.
Yeah, I like that.
So with the trad books that you first published, did they do marketing for you, or did you have to kind of learn how to do that yourself? Obviously with self-publishing, you had to do all of that.
Yeah.
But how did you kind of learn how to do that aspect of the book writing, publishing?
Well, so for the trad books, in theory, they marketed it. I don't really know how. I don't think they did a very good job, obviously. So like we made tons of money. With indie publishing, I mean, there are certain things you got to do, frankly, that are really irritating. You have to learn how to do at least some ads, Amazon ads, Facebook ads, Twitter ads, Reddit ads. You got to do one of these things, in my humble opinion, if you want to get like really out there. You don't have to like dump a ton of money into it. I know some people who dump like tons and tons of money into ads, but just even a little bit, and learning how to do like a return on investment, like an ROI, learning how to get good click-through rates, learning how to write a little ad so that people actually click on it. You know what I'm saying? Like those types of things. I guess a lot of that is trial and error. Finding a good image that works in an ad, finding a good little typeset, like, Harry Potter meets Pokemon, and seeing if people like that, if they'll click on it. Type of thing. Yeah. So it's frankly just a lot of trial and error. Amazon ads are a little bit easier because basically what you do is get a ton of keywords and use a lot of keywords to help people find your book easier. But yeah, it's a learning curve. I could probably talk for hours on like what you have to do for ads, but it's mostly just work, just finding out what works best for you and your book.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error, like you said.
Yeah.
Let's see. So at what point, after your first few books, or whenever, at what point did you feel like things were started to click, where you were like, hey, I'm, consistently making sales, I'm doing well, my books are doing well, I'm an author, so to speak. I know, for different people that's maybe a different goalpost, but like for you, where was that, where you were like, yeah, this is working?
I guess like around the fourth book of my Arcanist series, I was just making enough money that then I could live off of it, if that makes any sense. Like, it wasn't the only reason that I'm able to do this is because my husband is taking care of me. It was at that point that I was doing it and I was making enough money that I could just take care of myself, frankly, if I wanted to. Like, if I just, divorced him and flew off into the sunset, this would be enough money for me to live on. So I guess at that point is when I was like, this is totally working. You know what I'm saying? I guess I was optimistic before then because it seemed like people are enjoying the series. It seemed like the numbers were going up, like the amount of money was going up, the amount of readers were going up. People really liked it. And that's all really encouraging, right? Like, that really helps, frankly, get you into the like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing a good job. But it wasn't like that. I published Nightmare Arcanist, but I also published Starmark Rising and the Ethereal Squadron. So these books all came out at kind of roughly the same time. And the other two series didn't do as well as the Arcanist series. And that's another thing that I've learned as an author. I mean, frankly, sometimes you just also have to get a little bit lucky in terms of what people want to read and what they're looking for. It isn't just, did you write a good book? Because, and I'll say this from here until the end of time, I think Starmark Rising is a way better written book than my Nightmare Arcanist. But it's just, people, and even people who read it sometimes come up to me and they're like, this is a fantastic book, Shami. I can't believe this is one of your first books you ever wrote. And I was like, yeah, I liked it. I put a lot of work into it. And they're like, wow, how come it isn't the book you talk about all the time? And I'm like, it just didn't sell that well. Like, it sold okay, but it wasn't make a living money. It was just some money. So what do you want me to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm glad you guys like it, but it never ever took off, even though I think it's substantially better written than my other stuff. But there you go.
Yeah, no, I think no author can discount luck and just like market timing and all those things. It's like, I don't know if it was Mark Lawrence or some famous author was like, write, and then just luck. Like, to really make it to like that level of like international best-selling author, like sometimes you just have to hit the market at the right time with the right book.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it's just how it works. For you, early on, were there any like major mistakes other than maybe the trad publishing thing, but if you would consider that a mistake, but were there any like major mistakes or like just hurdles that you kind of had to get through in those early days?
Hurdle. I mean, sometimes in the very, very early days, what stops you from doing stuff is just money.
Yeah.
It costs a lot for a cover. It costs a lot for editors. I guess the first few things that I did that cost a lot was getting audiobooks. Like, audiobooks cost a couple grand in order to get produced. And now I think they're totally worth it. There's enough of an audiobook market that you'll get a lot of money back. If you make your own audiobooks, frankly, if you make audiobooks, you're probably going to make the money back as long as you're actively selling, actively marketing. You can't just put an audiobook out there and expect it to make tons of money. You gotta push it out other ways too. So yeah, I guess hurdles would be things like, how do I pay for this? How do I find a good audiobook narrator? How do I make sure I have the right editor? How do I get a cool cover but don't break the bank? Things like that. I feel like a lot of them were monetary concerns and or logistical concerns.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, money's definitely one that I don't think a lot of people understand. It's for indie authors, especially, is like, that's all you. Nobody's giving you a paycheck and doing a bunch of the work for you, which, in some cases may not even be that much as for trad, but
yeah.
Still, because I know a lot of trad authors still have to do their own marketing and a lot of different things. But yeah, it's definitely something to consider. I know audiobooks is one that I'm like, I really want to do, but I don't want to do ACX royalty share, and that makes it even harder.
So, yeah,
it's definitely one of those things. Or something else I was going to say. I don't know. I think I lost it. But did you? So as far as like covers and that sort of thing, have you ever had to rebrand, or like, like maybe like saying like, hey, this book series isn't selling, why, and then had to kind of like go back and figure out like cover or blurb or kind of the way you were marketing it in any way?
I guess I've never really rebranded a series like that before, so I don't have a whole lot of experience doing it.
No.
If it
Okay.
doesn't sell that well or something, I assume it's because I haven't hit markers. Like I don't have stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I haven't had something that's been like, man, I really need this to work, so I really need to rebrand it and remarket it, and then I've like reworked it. So I just don't have experience doing that.
Gotcha. No, that's fine. Well, any early wins? Did you have any kind of like big moments of inspiration, or just things that worked out, great early on?
BookBub is a like newsletter that sends out when a book is discounted or for sale, and a lot of people use BookBub. BookBub is huge. It costs a lot of money to be a part of their newsletter. Like it's usually $400 to $700 depending. But BookBub always makes the money back. Like it's one of those types of places where if you
Oh,
spend
okay.
$700 on one of their newsletters, you're going to get $700 back easy, probably in day one of the sale.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and I got a BookBub pretty early in my career and got a ton of readers that way.
Nice.
I recommend all authors go try to get a BookBub deal if they can. BookBub deals just really help you out a whole bunch.
Okay.
They're difficult to get because you have to be accepted. Like they have a little team that vets you before putting your books out on the newsletter.
Mhm.
I'm not even joking. They do because everybody wants to be a part of it. So yeah, you just have to keep submitting until they accept you.
And that one, I think, because I know there's a couple that I've looked at. I know BookBub's one of them. There's another one, I forget the name, but you have to have like a certain number of reviews ahead of time, right? Too.
Yeah.
All right. So we are almost at the end here. One last question before we kind of wrap this up. If you could go back to the very beginning, is there anything that you would do differently, that knowing what you know now?
I would just do self-publish way sooner. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. If I could go back in time, that's what I would do. Self-publish way earlier.
Okay. Well, that is fair, and you've explained why, your reasoning for
Yes.
that. So yes. All right. So where can people find you and your books?
I am going to 4 different conventions this year. I will be at LitRPGCon, LibertyCon, DragonCon, and PCon. I'll be the guest of honor at PCon, so if people want to be there and see me doing a whole bunch of stuff, I'll be doing that. You can find my books anywhere books are sold, frankly. They're on Amazon, they're on Barnes & Nobles, they're on Audible. On my website, I sell signed books and special editions. I have swag, like things like bookmarks or plushies or like little pins, things like that. So, I mean, if you are a fan of my books, I'm here for you. I've got lots of things for you. And if you just want to find my stuff, I got it all over the place.
Sweet. And then what's the best way for people to follow and connect with you? Maybe social media.
I have a social media account on any social media platform I have found. I think I'm the most active on Facebook and TikTok. Facebook and TikTok, I would say, are number 1. I think number 3 is probably Twitter/X and Instagram. Like those would be the next ones that I'm on. I'm on Blue Sky and Threads. But I must admit, it's harder to connect with people on them. Maybe just because I don't know how to use their apps. They're kind of newer, or like I don't know what's going on. But I also have a newsletter, and I also have a Discord server and stuff like that. So if you just go to my website and frankly just go look at those kinds of things, then you can chill and hang out with me.
Sweet. Well, I will put the links for the main stuff down in the description. And for the last thing, do you have, for any other authors out there who are indie self-publishing or maybe even considering trad hybrid, what would be like 1 to 2 pieces of advice that you would give?
Well, I guess my biggest piece of advice is to finish the book. Like, make sure you have a finished book first. And you would be surprised how many people can't seem to finish. Like, a lot of people give up before they have a finished product. So my biggest key advice is to finish. My next biggest advice is to not give up. A lot of publishing, it feels like it takes forever. It feels like you're not going anywhere. It feels like nobody cares or something like that. You have to care. You have to be the one that continues going no matter what. If you continue, basically, I have not seen anybody who is tenacious not at least get some sort of victory. If you're tenacious, if you just keep going, good things will happen. I mean, luck can only find the people who are out there playing the game. You can't get lucky if you're not publishing books, if you're not writing. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be out there. You got to do it.
Okay. Well, that is great advice. And I think that will wrap that up for us. Thank you so much for being here. Just talking with me. Again, I've mentioned this before, but partially selfish reasons of hosting these, as a new author, but hopefully, some fans and some other authors out there will find these beneficial for themselves as well. And have a good one.
Okay. Yeah. Have fun.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.